How much is the end of an era worth? Or better yet, how much does it cost to keep a team symbol alive when time, the salary cap, and the league's reality demand renewal? John Tavares is facing one of the most significant decisions of his career, and the Maple Leafs are facing a dilemma that could redefine the franchise's future. The captain's contract is coming to an end, and although both the player and the organization want to continue together, the talks haven't progressed as smoothly as many expected. Tavares represents more than statistics. He is the embodiment of a new generation in Toronto, a kid from Mississauga who grew up cheering for the Leafs, drafted first overall in 2009 by the Islanders, and who finally came home in 2018, fulfilling the dream of wearing the blue and white jersey. But now, 7 seasons later, the question is different. Is this dream still viable and fair for both sides? Before we dive into the details, hit that like button if you want to see this team finally conquer what has seemed out of reach for decades, the Stanley Cup. And if you believe Tavares still has a lot to give as captain, drop a comment below. Captain until the end. Subscribe to the channel because the future of this roster is being written now, and you'll want to follow every step of this story. Now let's get to the core issue, the new contract. Tavares and the franchise have a clear understanding. There's mutual desire to continue. The problem lies in the details. Sources close to negotiations indicate that a $5 million average annual value is on the table, but it's unlikely to be accepted by the player. For him, the value needs to reflect not just his current performance, but his total impact. Despite still playing at a high level on the ice and the represents a short-term in shaping this group's identity. And the front office knows that. Since his arrival, Tavares has been a steady, reliable, productive presence. Even as the years go by, his numbers remain solid. But the biggest challenge for the Leafs now is not recognizing Tavares' legacy. It's managing the present and future of a roster that needs to stay competitive under a tight salary cap. The most sensitive issue in the negotiation isn't even the money. It's the term. The length of the deal will be key in determining how this story ends. The Leafs want to protect themselves from long-term commitments that could limit strategic moves in the coming years. Meanwhile, Tavares, now 34, is seeking stability and recognition, perhaps the last major deal of his career. This impasse is more than just a conflict of interests. It reveals how every detail in Toronto today requires surgical calculation. With names like Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and William Nylander taking up large chunks of the cap, there's no room for mistakes. Every dollar that goes to Tavares is a dollar that can't be used to strengthen other areas. And in a league as tight as the NHL, that can make the difference between a first-round exit or a run to the finals. But what makes everything even more tense is the emotional weight surrounding this contract. Tavares is the captain, the silent leader, a respected professional both on and off the ice. His staying or leaving will define much more than a spot on the depth chart. It will shape the team's culture. At the same time, this is also a test for the Leafs themselves. How do you handle idols who still produce, but are no longer in their prime? How do you balance gratitude with cold business logic? How do you look forward without turning your back on those who built the foundation of the present? The fact is, John Tavares is still productive, still relevant, still beloved, but that doesn't make the decision any easier. On the contrary, it's the way of his story that makes every negotiation meeting so delicate. This extension, or the absence of one, will say a lot about how the Maple Leafs see their own future. It's possible both sides find middle ground, with a salary above $5 million, but a shorter term, or that Tavares agrees to reduce the contract length to help the team. But it's also possible the agreement doesn't happen at the desired pace, opening the door to discomfort, media pressure, and even outside speculation. Even if the word trade isn't anywhere near the table at this point. What we can say for sure is that every day without a final agreement increases the tension. For the player, it's the closure of an emotional chapter. For the franchise, a strategic choice. And for the fans, an agonizing wait. Now I want to hear from you. If you were in the Leafs GM's shoes, what would you do? Would you keep Tavares even if it meant limiting future reinforcements? Or is this the right time for a leadership transition? Drop your opinion below. And don't forget to subscribe, because in the next video we're going to tackle a topic that could explode in Toronto. The future of Mitch Marner. What happens to the Leafs if he also reaches a deadlock? While the spotlight remains fixed on the contract standoff surrounding John Tavares, a new tension is beginning to take center stage. And this time, it carries the weight of a name that defines an entire era of the Maple Leafs. Mitch Marner. At 27 years old, he's still one of the most creative players in the NHL. But within Toronto, he's become a symbol of something larger, an era that failed to deliver on its promises. And with yet another early playoff exit, the cycle appears to be closing. The Maple Leafs front office is no longer hiding the urgency. The tone has changed. Patience has run out. And now, Marner's future seems all but sealed, with strong rumors pointing to his imminent departure. According to Lyle Richardson of Bleacher Report, the Leafs are considering aggressive possibilities on the market, and one of them includes an unexpected name, one with a track record that screams experience: Jonathan Marchessault. Marchessault, now with the Nashville Predators, is in the midst of a transitional phase. His first year in Tennessee didn't live up to expectations. He posted 21 goals and 35 points in 78 games. Modest numbers compared to the player who was a central figure in the Vegas Golden Knights' 2023 championship run and the MVP of that same playoff campaign. But it's precisely that past that draws Toronto's interest. In the midst of an internal collapse, the team needs someone who knows how to win. Someone who's already faced and overcome criticism, doubt, and pressure. In this context, Marchessault is more than a tactical solution. He's a symbol of transformation. The transition, despite still playing at a high level, simple, represents his contract is considered heavy. And at 33, many are asking, can he still perform at the elite level Toronto needs? Is he truly the answer to Marner's departure, or just a temporary fix? That uncertainty looms large, and the Leafs know it. But the situation leaves no room for hesitation. It's been 58 years of frustration, an emotional void that can't be filled by promises, only by wins. The front office, under pressure from an increasingly impatient fan base, sees Marchessault as a high-risk bet with the potential for immediate payoff. The classic win-now formula, push to the limit. And if that means losing Marner, it appears the team is willing to accept it. The catch is that, even with all this willingness, Toronto doesn't have much to offer. Draft picks are limited. Prospects are scarce. The cap is maxed out. To bring in Marchessault, they need Nashville to cooperate. A mutual desire for change. And this is where things get even more delicate. Because while the Predators are also looking to make adjustments, they're not desperate. They know what Marchessault is worth, even on a downturn, and they won't settle for just any deal. Toronto would have to sell more than a contract. They'd have to sell a vision, a clear plan for how Marchessault fits into a system that's already grappling with structural issues. That takes courage and clarity. Because if the front office misfires on this move, it could cost more than just a season. It could bury an entire generation. This potential trade then carries layers. It's not just about Marner and Marchessault, but about the future of Tavares, the legacy of Austin Matthews, the very identity of the Maple Leafs as a franchise. Is this the beginning of a disguised rebuild, or the final push from a core that still believes it can win together? Marchessault isn't just another name on the list. He represents a dilemma of the moment, the cost of urgency, the reflection of a front office that refuses to admit failure, but knows deep down that time is running out. And as the front office simmers, the fans watch in silence, caught between hope and fear. They've seen this movie before. Big names, big promises, and always the same ending. But what if this time is different? What if Marchessault is exactly the kind of player Toronto needs? Not because of what he does with the puck, but because of how he handles pressure. Expectations? The weight of an entire city on his back? Would you trade Mitch Marner for that chance? Would you bet everything on a 33-year-old veteran with a hefty contract and declining production, believing he could reignite the fire this team is missing? Or would you hold on to Marner until the very end, knowing he could leave for nothing? Let us know in the comments. This conversation is just beginning, and if you want to follow every twist in this potential trade, the upcoming decisions on Tavares, and all the changes brewing in Toronto, subscribe to the channel now, because this summer will be decisive. The future of the Leafs is being written right now.